Working. Why is it not working? I don't know.
No.
We don't need this. Okay. Okay. It's working. Nothing on the screen. You know anything about this stuff?
No, not much. No.
I don't know. Hope it's working.
We
Does it
didn't
work?
start at the beginning of this.
No, we just have to begin. We started from the beginning of chapter 4 when we started. Right? Yeah, beginning of chapter 4. So let's just, I don't know, hope it's working, but I don't know if it's recording or not. I think it's recording. It says recording, so that's good, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. It says recording. All right, so 48A1, Mishnah. Continuing its elaboration on the list of laws enumerated in Mishnah 42b, the Mishnah cites the next items in the list and explains. So if we remember the first Mishnah we started, it went through all these different things we do on the different days of the holiday. So the other Mishnahs went through a number of them. Now we're continuing on with that list. Hallel v'simcha shmoina ketzad. The obligation to recite the full Hallel. So one of the mitzvahs we do on Sukkot and also Shmini Atzeres, we read the whole Hallel, an obligation to reciting the requirement, rejoicing. The requirement of eating to eat the shlami meat remains in effect for 8 days. How so? When it says rejoicing, just to let you know, so it's a mitzvah to rejoice on Sukkot. What does that mean, rejoicing? What do you have to do? What do you have to jump up and down? What does that? What's the word rejoicing mean?
You could.
Well, you could, yeah, you can do that. Yes, a good thing too. But it also, what it means also eating the shlami meat. So what brings joy? Joy is eating meat. So it's a mitzvah to eat meat on a holiday. And the holiday of Sukkot, to eat the shlami meat, specifically the karban shlami, the sacrifice, the shlami meat, which is the meat that the Kohen had a part, the owner took a part of it. Yes.
That's the peace offering.
The peace offering, exactly. Peace offering, yes. So everyone had a part of that meat. So the God got a part, the owner got a part, and the Kohen got a part. So it's just a piece. Everyone's at peace. Everyone's enjoying their meal. So that meat is called rejoicing. So the mitzvah is not just on Sukkot to eat the meat, but even on Shmini Atzeres for 8 days. So 7 days of Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres. Melamed, how is this? Melamed shechayv adam. This teaches us that a man is obligated. B'halal v'simcha u'b'kaved yom tov ha'achin shel chag. In recitation of the Hallel, the mitzvah rejoicing in the honor of the final day of Yom Tov, of the festival, Shmini Atzeres, kishar kol yemei chag, just like all the other days of the festival. So a person is required to, in saying the Hallel and rejoicing and in eating the meat on the final day as well, Shmini Atzeres, in addition to Sukkot.
Rabbi,
Yes.
it's a little off topic, but specifically that meat equals rejoicing. Shavuos, which you would think would be a holiday to rejoice, is a dairy holiday.
Excellent question. So the dairy part of the holiday is a minhag. It's not actually a biblical commandment. It doesn't even mention in the Torah. It's a minhag. We eat dairy for a number of reasons why we do that. Because the Jewish people didn't have their that was the Shavuos was on a Shabbos, and their kalim, all their vessels were not kosher because they didn't eat kosher meat before the Torah was given. Only when the Torah was given, that was they obligated to eat kosher. So what they couldn't cook anything, so they ate dairy because you can always eat dairy. So that's one of the reasons. There's a number of reasons why we eat dairy, but it's all a minhag. It's not actually the obligation like a biblical commandment or any kind of commandment at all to eat dairy. There is a mitzvah on Shavuos to eat meat. You have to eat the shlam meat on Shavuos as well. So every holiday there's a mitzvah. So even you eat dairy in the for a meal, you have to eat meat as well. It's a mitzvah to eat meat in addition to that. I'm going to close the door there. I'm hoping that's because it's a little noisy from the people cleaning the building. One second. But not. So let's give it a
What is it, 32.5 now, dairy before meat?
1 hour.
1 hour?
1 hour. Between meat and dairy, 6 hours. But between dairy and meat, that's what.
But if it's like a hard cheese, then I think the next two.
Let's take stuff out. I just going to find it off.
And if it's pork, it's 8 hours.
Well, unless it's pork on a Chinese food menu, in which case it's
Unless
kosher.
ham and cheese. So,
Yeah, that little time
Suzanne. No, while we're taking a little break. So if you listen to any of the Supreme Court arguments today about who.
I read them. I read summary.
Is Talking Brown Jackson
Chinese restaurant.
dumb?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that publicly. It's embarrassing.
Cupcake AI.
She's an idiot.
It's the big.
Okay.
And then they mush the king.
We burned the cupcakes burned in the oven.
That's what you got in the Supreme Court.
That's how the easy part.
Okay.
No, that's why.
You burn cupcakes?
I know. You remember it smelled good.
Yeah.
So I see like the smoke coming out of the kitchen. What's going on?
Left them in there?
Someone left them in the oven. It's burning. I just pulled them out. Thank God I saw it.
They still.
I don't know who it is. I'm just saying. It was burned. Well, she forgot about mistake probably. Whatever. It is. I took it out. It's fine. All right. Let's continue.
Talk about open, close that, so hopefully
The smoke goes out that way.
Smoke detector.
Yeah, if I turn the from otherwise, yeah.
They're clean,
No sprinkles, Baruch Hashem.
There's no sprinklers. Yeah.
Cupcakes and other hockey pucks.
Yeah, exactly. So Gemara. Minani Mili. From where do we know this law of rejoicing on the 8th day? How do we know? The Torah talks about there's a mitzvah, Shivas Yami, 7 days you have to rejoice. Talking about the mitzvah of 7 days you have to be doing simcha. In Shmini Atzeres, 8th day doesn't talk anywhere in the Torah about simcha. So where do we know you have obligation of simcha, which means eating the shlamim? So simcha is always referred to eating shlamim. So where do we know that we have to eat the shlamim on the 8th day as well? Tana Rabbanan, simcha means joyous, being joyous. The Tana Rabbanan for the Gemara taught in the Brisa, Vayisa Ach Sameach, with the reference to the festival Sukkot. The verse states, for 7 days you shall celebrate to God, and you shall be nothing but joyous. So there's a ach, means but, everything nothing but joyous. The rabbis lel Yom Tov ha'achra. This comes to include the final night of Yom Tov, Shmini Atzeres, in the rejoicing of the previous 7 days. So in addition to the 7 days, Vayisa ach sameach, nothing but joyous means there's extra learning. We learn there has to be also an additional day, which is the 8th day. Yes.
But shouldn't you eat it on the first day? Because that's the last day of Yom Tov, of the actual holiday.
Should you eat?
Shmini Atzeres, it's another holiday.
Right. So you have to eat 7 days of Sukkot. We know there's a mitzvah of simcha
I thought it was just on Yom Tov.
on Yom Tov. Well, Yom Tov, and you can also eat it throughout the Sukkot. So the whole 7 days will be joyous, actually. The joy is it's all 7 days. You want to look in the footnotes; it'll give you a little bit more background on the verses. But the joy, it's talking about the joy of all 7 days.
Chalamoy also, Yom Tov, but not.
By the way, yeah, it's not right. It's part of still a holiday of Sukkot. The joy is being we eat it here in number 8. Look at number 8. Let's look at number 7 first. Actually, the obligation of rejoicing is stated explicitly only in regards to the 7 days of the festival. Is written, make for yourself the festival of Sukkot for 7 days, I mean, all 7 days, and you shall rejoice on your festival. What is the source of obligation to rejoice on the 8th day? Look at number 8. These two verses immediately preceding this one, Scriptures explicitly states that the Sukkot holiday shall be for 7 days, and these days shall be a time of rejoicing. And verse 15 cited here repeats this idea. It says again the same idea of being joyous, saying again that one shall be joyous during the 7 days of the celebration. The latter verse thus seems to be purpose. Why is it again? And expands to convey additional laws. It comes to teach additional. Why again did it say about joyous? It comes to teach another law as well. Okay. Back to the Gemara. The Brisa asks, but perhaps it is not so. And the verse is only meant to include the first night of the festival, of the first night of the festival. So maybe the extra teaching of being joyous again is coming to teach us that the first night you have to eat your shlamim offering. So the law is you cannot slaughter your animal on a night. It has to be slaughtered during the day. So the first night you can't eat your shlamim, right? Because you can't slaughter it. So you only defer the earliest time you're able to slaughter the shlamim to eat it for on Sukkot is the first day. So maybe this extra teaching is telling us that you can that you can slaughter the animal Erev Sukkot, the day before Sukkot, and eat it on Sukkot on the first night. Because every other night of Sukkot you can eat it, because the day and night is all continued. You can eat it any time. The only you can slaughter it at night times. But once it's slaughtered, you can eat it any time during the day or night of said the 7 days of Sukkot. So the question is, maybe this extra verse is teaching us that you can ready slaughter it the eve of Sukkot, and then eat it the first night. Already the first night of Yom, you can already start enjoying and being joyous on the first night of the holiday. The Gemara, the Brisa answers, "Shu Omer look." When the Torah states "but," it qualifies the contents of the verse and teaches that only one of these times, the evening of the last day, is designated for rejoicing. So the word ach means it's only, like it's making it's but means it's qualifying. Maybe you should open the window.
He just did.
Yeah,
Oh, you open up.
the window, open this door.
Yeah, the smoke is.
Yeah, I'm open this door.
Starting to tear.
I know it's a little. So the ach means. So you have it's called a riboy. A riboy means you're coming to include more things, and then you have something to qualify only one thing. So there's something that coming to the extra verse is teaching you have to be more add an additional simcha than you have. But means only this. So we only can add one thing. So what are we adding? We're adding the last day, not the first day. The question is, Mark's going to ask why you're adding the last day, not the first day, right? The last day meaning the 8th day, Shmini Atzeres.
Can you go back for a second to the killing the cow on the eve? So before Yom Tov starts, right? That's what they're implying.
Yes.
Kill the cow.
You can't. Well, you can. We're trying to say maybe the Torah is trying to the Gemara says twice. You should add simcha. Already says once you have to do simcha for 7 days, and then it says again you should be joyous in your festival again. So what is it coming to teach us? It's extra. You already said the same thing once. You don't have to say it twice. So the extra, it's called a limud, to teach us something new, to add additional simcha. So where should that extra simcha go? So we can think maybe it goes to teach us the first night of the holiday, you can't eat the shlamim because you can't slaughter during the night. So maybe the extra limud, the extra teaching is telling us you can slaughter it the eve of Sukkot, right? And then you can eat it the first night and start enjoying and being besimcha and enjoying the Yom Tif the night of the first night of Yom Tif.
Meaning slaughtered before Yom Tov starts, eaten after Yom Tov.
During Yom Tif.
During Yom Tov.
Yeah, the first night. The first night of Yom Tif.
The first night of Yom Tov. Assuming you can slaughter it a half an hour before Yom Tov and then
Yes.
cook it and then eat it.
Right. The idea is that you can slaughter before, so you can already start enjoying it the first night. Right. Correct. Yeah. But the Gemara says you can only learn one thing from this because the ach means it's only. So only it's giving you what's the word he uses here? Qualify. He says it's only this thing. So you can't add two. So either you're going to add the joy of the holiday, the shlamim, to the first night, meaning you slaughter it the day before the holiday, Erev Yom Tif, or you're going to qualify the Shmini Atzeres, so it's the 8th day that to make the 8th day you can also eat the shlamim. Thus, the verse contains one implication. Here, actually explains it over here now. One inclusion implication, the additional mention of rejoicing, and one restrictive application, the word ach, but. So you have one of each. Thus, however, leaves ambiguously why the inclusive and the restrictive words are implied specifically in this way. So why are we specifically choosing to include the 8th day of Yom Tiv into the eating the shlamim and not the first night? Conceivably, a Tana could have come to the opposite conclusion, that the first night of the festival is included in rejoicing, and the last night is excluded. The Brisa proceeds to address this very point. So you have one inclusion and one exclusion. So which day, what are you going to include? The first night or the last night, right? So it's excluding one and including one. So which one are we going to include in the joy of eating in the shlamim, and what are we excluding? And what do we see that compels you to include the last night of Yom Tov, meaning Shmini Atzeres, and to exclude the first night of Yom Tov? So why are you choosing to only include the last night, Shmini Atzeres, not the first night? The Brisa answers this question. Mar ba'ani leil Yom Tov ha'acharain. I include the last night of Yom Tov sheyesh simcha lefanav, for it preceded by the days of rejoicing. It already has all these days of rejoicing before it. That's why I'm including that day, the last night. Moitzi leil Yom Tov ha'rishon. I exclude the first night she'ein simcha lefanav, for there's no preceding. Is not preceded by other days of rejoicing. So it's easier to, because Yom Tov is already because the eighth day already has 7 days of joyous days before it. It's already during a time of simcha, so it makes more sense to include the eighth day than it makes sense to exclude the first include the first day. So no, there's no joy before it. Why should we include it? So it makes more sense to include the last day. That's why we include the last day. Okay, next Mishnah.
Excuse me.
Yes. Yes.
I think we probably covered this last week, but remind me. So, right, it's Sukkot is for 7 days and then Shmini and Atzeres, right?
Yes.
No great shot.
Yeah.
However, in Israel, it's only Shmini and Atzeres and the last day of Sukkot are the same day.
No.
Well,
Simchas Torah.
Simchas Torah.
I'm sorry.
It's both 8 day, right? An 8th day, correct. Here it's 9 days. In Israel, it's only 8th day here. It's only 8 days there, correct.
Because we have first 2 days also. First 2 days of.
Yeah, the first 2 days, and I was just thinking about the last days.
There's only 8 days. There's no 9 days. There's no ninth day, basically. That's in Israel, correct.
Okay.
The Mishnah continued to elaborate the laws cited in the first Mishnah in this chapter. Sukkah Shiva Ketza. The Sukkah obligation is enforced for 7 days. How is this? How we have the Sukkah for 7 days? Gomar li milecha lo yater sukkase. When one finishes eating his final meal on the 7th day, you should not disassemble his sukkah. So you have to keep it all 7 days, the full 7 days. Till even after you finish eating your meal, you should keep the sukkah up. Don't start taking it down right away. It's like, why is that? Rashi explains, because you may want to eat more, you may want to sleep in the sukkah. Those are mitzvah, even though we don't have that custom eating and sleeping in the sukkah, it is a mitzvah really sleeping in the sukkah or learning in the sukkah. You want to hang on your sukkah, you're supposed to, the mitzvah is the whole day, so you shouldn't take it down early because you might need it to use it later on in the day. However, he may take down into his house the vessels, the furnishing of the vessel, the furnishing and the vessels that he used in the sukkah throughout the holiday, from mincha time and onwards. Mincha time is about 2.5 hours before mincha tana. It's called like 2.5 hours before the end of the day. So 2.5 hours before the end of the day, you can start bringing your vessels, your chairs, your couches, whatever you have, your tables into your house, because you're gonna start eating in your house the next day for Shmini Atzeres. And this is about Israel. It's about Israel, yeah.
So you're gonna still, even though it's still Sukkot, you can do it.
Right, so you can start bringing your in honor of the holiday Shmini Atzeres, because you can't come to the holiday Shmini Atzeres and have nothing in your house. Remember, people we have now we're relatively well to do, so we have a table and chair out in a sukkah. We have chairs in the house. They had one table, one chair, one everything. So they lived in their sukkah physically, like they slept there, they ate there, they did everything in their sukkah. So all the furniture they have went into the sukkah. So they had so what do they do? So how are they going to celebrate Shmini Atzeres? So 2.5 hours before they can start bringing the furniture into their house. There.
Why can you bring it in, but you can't burn your schach?
Well, the schach is muksa. It's different. It's a different idea. So schach, it's muksa because it's set aside for the mitzvahs. You can't use it till after the holiday. We learned earlier about that. Yeah. Okay. Mipnei kavod Yom Tov ha'achrin shachag, in honor of the final Yom Tov festival. So in honor of the final festival of a holiday, we can take our kalim, our vessels and stuff into the house. Talk about chairs, tables, whatever, all the stuff you have in your house. Gemara. In addition to showing honor for the approaching festival of Shmini Atzeres, taking down one's utensils into the house serves another purpose. So there's 2 reasons why we take the stuff into our house on Shmini Atzeres. If one had no other place to eat on Shmini Atzeres, he must eat in the sukkah. He runs the risk of appearing as if he's adding to the Torah's mitzvahs, the prohibition of Baal Tosif. So there's a prohibition, you're not allowed to add to the mitzvahs. You're not allowed to add to any mitzvah. For example, you can't put on tzitzis with 4 or 5 corners. I'll put an extra corner of tzitzis. Or put on an extra box for tefillin. You can't add to the mitzvah. Whatever you can do the mitzvah, you can't make it more than the mitzvah is. You want to have a little of an esrog, so you shake it for 5 species instead of 4 species, or shake it with a mitzvah intention to do a mitzvah on another day or something. That's you're not allowed to add to the mitzvah. Yes.
When you, the example that you use about adding to the mitzvah by adding a string to your tzitzis, no. I mean, with tzitzis, there's a prescribed number of knots and the amount. So adding to it would not. How would that add?
So let's say, I don't know. There's a lot of many different laws. So any law you want to add, let's say you want to add to five. Torah says you have to have 4 corner garments has tzitzis, right? Let's say you have a 5 corner garment. You also want to put, you want to put tzitzis on that. That would be a problem. You're adding to what Torah is telling you to do. You can't add to the mitzvah.
But there's so many things that
If you're doing it for the intention of doing a mitzvah.
that add to the mitzvah. You know, for instance, do you really need 4 kitchens?
That's not, you're not adding to the mitzvah. You're making sure your meat and your dairy are separated. You're trying to do it the best possible way. There's absolutely no way that meat and dairy is separated. But you're not adding to the mitzvah in the sense that you're saying now I'm not eating meat. If you're doing it for a mitzvah, if you want to do it for a health reason, you want to eat. Let's say you do something. But you're doing it for a mitzvah. You can't. I'm trying to think of an example here. This is a perfect example, right? So let's say you saw I want to eat in the sukkah. I believe. So sukkah is 7 days. On the 8th day, I'm going to eat in the sukkah too. I'm for a mitzvah. You're not eating to enjoy because I like the outdoors or I want to. But if you're specifically doing it to add to the mitzvah, that's a prohibition of Baal Tosef. You're adding. You're showing you're extending the mitzvah longer than it really is. You're adding to what God commanded you to do. You're not allowed to add to it.
So you can eat with your hands because you took your utensils in the house.
You're talking about why are we bringing the utensils out into your house?
Right. So
it's show right.
right.
So we want to show you're not going to be. The Gemara is going to explain a little more. So let's give it a minute for the Gemara to explain. But the Gemara is going to explain what that means. You can't. You have to show that when you're sitting in the sukkah, you're not sitting in the sukkah for the mitzvah. You're sitting in the sukkah because you have nowhere else to go. Maybe you don't have a home. Maybe it's the only place you have is your sukkah. So then you're allowed. Then you can do it as long as you're not. People don't give that impression, or even you shouldn't show that you're doing it for a mitzvah.
But my custom is when Shmini service is to eat in sukkah. So is that, how is that reconciled with?
Great question.
It's only in America.
Not adding to a.
Excellent question. So if you remember, the Gemara actually said the halacha is to eat in the sukkah on the 8th day. And the reason for that is because we don't know, at least in those days, they didn't know. Now we have a calendar, but in those days, they didn't know if it was what day was a holiday, right? So maybe part of the holiday, the 7th, the 8th day, maybe the 7th day. We don't know. So now we're adding to the Torah. We're doing it in case it is a 7th day, because everyone knows, and they ask for, we can't know the day. Everyone knows that in those days, especially in those days, there was no way to know. We're not adding to the mitzvah. We're doing because we want to make sure we're not breaking the Torah. We're not violating the Torah. You understand?
So it's the intent.
It's intent. It's the intent, and everyone knows that's the reason why you're doing it. You're not doing it because you want to add. You didn't decide you're sitting in the sukkah in July for sukkahs. If you want to sit in your sukkah to enjoy yourself, it's not a problem. As long as you're not trying to do it for actual mitzvah. Anything you do if you're doing it for a mitzvah that's more different than the Torah, you're adding to what the Torah tells you that you can do. I'm trying to think of classic. I think that the tzitzis is a classic example. There's a few other examples like that.
If you think about the yeshiva culture now in the religious communities where men are just studying all the time to the exclusion of supporting their family, right? I mean, in a lot of instances, that's what they do and what they're looking for. So isn't that taking the mitzvah of studying Torah a little bit too far?
Why is that?
Well, because now you're
I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm just trying to understand.
You're either relegating now your wife as the sole supporter of your family so that you can continue to be a mitzvah, to perpetuate this mitzvah, or you are relying on your family's wealth or your spouse's family's wealth to support you and your children. And in the worst examples of this, and it's been said, there's been corruption to the extent of taking advantage of social programs and things like that, so that they can support a lifestyle of studying Torah.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that isn't that too much?
So again, anything that's against the Torah is not you're not allowed to do. So if you're cheating, then obviously it's not with in line with the Torah. As far as studying Torah day and night, it's the Torah. The Torah tells us, "Gisa ba yom v'layla." You have to study. You should study Torah day and night. So there's no on the contrary, studying Torah is a good thing. If you're you're doing things that are not moral, that's then it gets not in line with Torah. So it depends on what you're. I mean, studying. You're asking me, study Torah is a good thing. We say it in Shema. The mitzvah of studying Torah is all over the Torah. Talking about the mitzvah of studying Torah. So studying Torah is a mitzvah. Obviously, if it comes in expense of other things, you have to question what what you see. What's the best thing? What a God wants me at this time. God wants you to work. God put us on His work to work as well. I'm not saying so we have to work. We have to do what we have to do, but. I'm not here to judge other people how they live and what they choose. If you ask me, study Torah is a good thing. Obviously, it's a good thing, no question about it. And as much as you're able to study, you should study. If you have to work, you have to work for sure. God put us on this world to work. That's part of our job in this world. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what the question really is. Like, what your question is whether you should.
My question.
How does it come into the to discussion?
Well, it's around you can't make the mitzvah or you shouldn't make the mitzvah more.
Add to the mitzvah. So you're adding to what Hashem gave you a certain mitzvah to add to that. For example, as I said, you want to add 5 tzitzis. So you have 5 corners, you put tzitzis on all 5 corners. That's adding to the mitzvah. You have to add 4 boxes in your tefillin, you put a 5th box in your tefillin. That's adding to the mitzvah. That's what I was referring to.
I gotta go.
Make sense?
I gotta go back to this. It says, however, you may take down into the house
Yes.
his utensils. So now he doesn't have his utensils if he's proving to others that he's not using the sukkah on the 8th day as part of the mitzvah. But only if he doesn't have another place to eat. But if he takes his utensils down into the house, he's got another place to eat.
Right. So we're talking. So if he has another place to eat, then he takes his utensils down to his house. If he doesn't have a place, Gemara's going to ask him. Right.
That's not what it says. It says by removing the utensils, by taking it down to his house, he can eat in the sukkah as not part of the mitzvah, as long as he doesn't have another place to eat. So it's contradicting itself because he took the utensils into the house. Therefore, he could eat in the house too. He has another place.
So this is talking. The Mishnah is talking about a case where he has a place to eat in the house. So he has a place to eat in his house. Then he takes the utensil, because those days they had the mitzvah on the roof usually. That's where in the times of the Talmud, that's where they had their sukkah on the roof, on their roofs. They brought it downstairs in from their roof into their house. So he would, if they had a home, and if someone else to eat, they would bring their utensils into your home. Why are they bringing it to your home? Because of the holiday. So for to set the table and set everything up for the holiday. Now the introduction to the Gemara, the Art Scroll Gemara is telling us that in addition to showing honor to the holiday of Shmini Atzeres, that's one of the reasons why we bring the things into the house. Another reason is in order to it shouldn't appear that you're eating in the sukkah another day. You're eating in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres for the mitzvah of sukkahs. Because you have to remember, in Israel, let's do this on Israel. In Israel, Shmini, they knew what the calendar was. So they knew the 8th day is not part of Sukkot. Here we eat in the sukkah the 8th day, and that's because we don't know.
Well, then wouldn't that mandate the complete removal of the sukkah?
No, we don't. We don't. We keep it up to the end of Sukkot. That way, if you want to eat, you want to sleep, you want to learn, you're able to sit and sleep in the sukkah throughout the whole day. It's the 7th day. So we keep the sukkah up. We just take the vessels, the tables, the chairs, the pots, whatever. Not pots, not pots in there, but tables, chairs, or anything else you want to bring to your home.
But then by keeping the sukkah up on Shmini Atzeres or beyond a day or two, getting back to you don't want to add to the mitzvah, wouldn't that imply to the community who sees your sukkah still up that you're trying to
You're not eating the sukkah. You can have a sukkah. It's not a problem to have a sukkah. You're not eating, as long as you're not eating the sukkah, there's no problem with
But
that.
you,
And even if you do eat in the sukkah later on, to explain how you could eat in the sukkah and showing you that it's not doing it for the mitzvah. But if you have a sukkah, just having a sukkah, you can have a sukkah all year round. There's no problem with that. You're not, it's not showing you're eating the sukkah for the mitzvah. You just have your sukkah because you can't if you keep it up the whole 7 days. Everyone has a sukkah. They're not having the attention to eat there next day. They took all their chairs and tables out. It's very clear you're not eating there.
Make it a non-kosher sukkah.
no, it's
No,
kosher.
well, the more discuss that part, not kosher.
The contents of the sukkah.
You were on-
But you put up the sukkah before Yom Tov, so it's already up.
Days after, I don't know that there is nothing inside to eat. I don't know that you're not still eating. And so, because I'm a Jewish man like everybody else, I'm looking at the guy who's walking with me. I'm saying, oh, look at this macher. He thinks he's more religious than the rest of us. He's still eating. And still
But you gotta look
Never-
in
never-
and see if the vessels are still
There's
there.
nothing in the sukkah. There's no table or chairs on you eating the sukkah. So
I don't know that because all I see is the sukkah.
But they were taken out, so you could look in and see. that
Yeah, I mean-
that's the mitzvah.
I'm Jewish.
Don't be
Yeah.
too Jewish, don't be too
Okay.
Jewish.
Yeah.
let's continue. By continuing to eat in the sukkah on additional, by removing the utensils which is being used all week, he demonstrates that he's not eating there because he wishes to fulfill the mitzvah, but because he has nowhere else to eat. That's basically, this is the commentary explaining. Okay. The Gemara asks, Ein like came mahu. The Gemara is asking now a question. So you say you have to take the vessels out, so to show everybody that you're not eating there for the mitzvah, right?
Where are you putting the vessels if
In
you
your
don't
home.
have another?
Back in,
But you don't,
you don't
have
have
another place to eat.
All right, good
That was
question.
my.
1 second.
You're just putting them outside the sukkah so people could see that you're not eating in the sukkah with the vessels.
And frankly,
Or just take it out, maybe just take it out of the sukkah, not say put it in your house.
It's
Just
your
put it
question,
anywhere.
you're supposed to, it's your
Yeah.
question, this wasn't
Yeah,
your question.
maybe just bring it out of the sukkah is enough. You don't have to even eat, put it in your house. Like you have nowhere to eat. Just take it out and put it out in the garden, right outside the sukkah.
It's a Gemara,
Yes.
this question.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting it from.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Gemara.
It conflicts with itself.
And I give you the
I
answer.
can't hear you. I can't.
Give me the answer.
Out of the sukkah so people don't think that you're still doing it. By
Yeah.
having the sukkah up, people would.
Well, you can't. Everyone has a sukkah up because you can't take it down. You have to leave it all 7 days. Yeah, and once the holiday starts, you can't take your sukkah down anymore because of the holiday. You can't take it down. It's usher. You're not a builder
You can't take it down
or
until after Shmini and Sarah.
right because you can't.
But
no
when
one
Shmini
can.
and Sarah.
Nobody could. Everyone knows you can't take it down.
Right, and so I understand that part. So Shmini and Sarah, there's a day of dispensation, but just like at the end of Yom Kippur, right, you're supposed to put the sukkah up.
You're supposed to put a stake in.
Right, when Shmini and Sarah is over, then the same rule should be take your sukkah down, otherwise everybody's gonna think you're still eating.
You're not gonna do it at night, when
Put
it's
it up
dark.
at night.
Why you put it, nobody put it up.
Okay, so let's, you know what, it's a good question. Let's read footnote 17. I was going to answer your question, but let's read 17. You could technically eat in a sukkah all day. It's not a problem to eat during the year. You want to eat in the sukkah, not for the mitzvah. If you just eat in a sukkah, it's not a problem.
But then the walls.
If you're
will be
doing it for
permanent.
the sukkah, it's different. But let's read 17 for a second. It's going to answer your question. Although strictly speaking, one does not transgress the prohibition of Baal Tosef, means adding to the mitzvah, after the holiday has passed, unless he actually intended to add to the mitzvah. Nevertheless, one's required to avoid even appearance of wrongdoing, Maris Ayin. So let me call it right. So you're not allowed to add. So technically, unless you had intention to eat in the sukkah with the intent of doing a mitzvah, I'm coming. You want to eat, you want to chill in your sukkah. You have a nice backyard. You want a little shade. You put a little shade up there. That's fine. But as long as you're not doing it for the mitzvah, right? But something called Maris Ayin. Maris Ayin means you don't go into McDonald's with a yarmulke because people thinking you're going to eat, a cheeseburger. So that's Maris Ayin. So you shouldn't, right?
Well, but that's the point. They put in, there is that extra piece, because it's not just your intention. It's what other people might think your intention is. You're
Well-
not supposed to even create a possible appearance that you are doing this for.
I don't
There's no way
think
you can
people,
know
I don't think I don't think average,
Sukkah too. Your sukkah is still up after as is mine. So if you're walking by and saying, "Oh, he thinks you saw, hey, there's sukkah up," so do you. That's the point. You can't take your sukkah down either.
I I get it, right, I get it, what I'm.
If I see a sukkah up if after Yom Tov, I just think the guy was lazy, didn't have time to take it down. That's all I think. I don't think he's eating there because the mitzvah to eat in the sukkah. I come in December, November, I see people's sukkah still up. I'm like, the guy didn't have time. I don't think he's eating the sukkah.
But again, they put the language in the rules around not having that appearance. So if one person thinks, look at him, it's December and his sukkah is up. Well, who does he think?
You think he's just you think he just didn't have time, or he's lazy or whatever. You couldn't get around to it. Yeah.
An appearance for eating a meal.
But this is like because it's a holiday.
Eating the meal mitzvah in the sukkah.
Eating the meal.
You can without the utensils there.
Yeah, but Shmini Atzeres is a holiday. So you're saying the holiday of Shmini Atzeres is part of Sukkot. That's what people get mixed up. During the year, I don't think people are going to get confused with, because it's a holiday, part of the holiday. So Shmini is Sukkot, 7 days. The day after Sukkot is Shmini Atzeres. So you're thinking, why is he eating the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres, part of the holiday? That day, you don't have to eat in the sukkah. So you think he's adding to the mitzvah. Any other day, you don't think he's eating the sukkah for a mitzvah. He's just eating to it. He wants to chill out, whatever. I don't think that's enough of a reason to
You heard him say Lesheva Sukkot.
right. Then you think, okay.
And then you call the mitzvah police.
Oh, I'm gonna say an extra day.
You
Are
take
you,
them to the-
are you a
Where's
lawyer?
its head now?
you take them to the bacon.
Like if you're a lawyer.
Okay.
It's really a person's intent with what's,
It's intent, but you also try not to give the appearance as well. Right, correct. But I think on a regular day, you don't start assuming things unless there's a reason to really unless you walk into McDonald's and you're ordering something and people think, what are you doing in there? Otherwise, you don't really necessarily.
If someone says the blessing.
Yeah, they say sukkah, then why? Yeah, that makes sense. 100%. Okay. The Gemara asks, if one does not have utensils to take down from his sukkah, what should he do? How does he demonstrate that he's not eating the sukkah for the sake of fulfilling the mitzvah? Gemara is puzzled by this question. Ain't like kalim, he has no utensils. But when using the sukkah all week, what was he using? He didn't have anything. He didn't have chairs, tables. How do you use a sukkah? What did he use all week long? Gemara rephrases its inquiry. Ella, rather, if one has no place where to bring his utensils, what should he do? That was your question, I think, right?
Yeah.
That was his question. Doesn't matter how. Where do you bring his things to? The Gemara answers. Rab Chia bar Ashi. Amar Rab Chia bar Ashi says, "Poiches ba arba." He breaches a four tefachim wide opening space in the schach, thereby disqualifying the schach. What is the real sukkah? A sukkah is not the walls. The walls, you need to have the walls, but not make it a sukkah. The schach is make a sukkah. So you open up a four tefachim area that disqualifies the sukkah, and then you're showing everybody you're not eating the sukkah for the mitzvah. You're saying
It's making it a non-kosher sukkah.
right, making it non-kosher. Exactly, you're making it non-kosher. So the Rashi and other commentators point out that really even 3 tvachim is enough to disqualify the sukkah. So why need 4 tvachim? So he might want shade. So he might want to put like something not non-kosher schach. Something that's not kosher. Then you need 4 tvachim. So that's why it says 4 tvachim. So basically, you make the sukkah disqualified for the purpose of sukkahs.
Yeah, it's for the Jews who say they think they're very smart.
Yeah.
Sukkahs when you have a huge storm and blows your.
It was nothing.
So you have to make sure it's What is it? What do you mean? So you have to when you make sure the shach doesn't blow away. You're saying.
Yeah.
You can put something on top of it, put heavy branches to hold it down or whatever. You can tie with natural rope, but generally, yeah.
I have a question about
No, because we had that here.
Yeah, but still, you can't make sure it has kosher schach. You can't eat otherwise.
Isn't this schach muksa on Shmini Atzeret?
The schach. Well, I'm sorry, but what we say earlier, I think it's only to the 7th. Well, it depends on which opinions, different opinions. But either way, even if it's muksa, you can't use it as firewood. But you can take it off. You can take it off. You can't use it as firewood. But no, before Yom Tov. I guess maybe before Yom Tov starts.
Shmini Atzeret, and you want to give the appearance that you're eating in it, but not.
You probably could move it to Shmini Atzeres as well.
Right.
Yeah, you probably could move it. Yes.
That's fine.
So if there's a storm in America, first night of Yom Tov, okay, and it blows the stuff over.
You can put it back.
Are you allowed to put it back? Because
Yeah.
then you're making it.
You're making it code right.
Incomplete to complete.
But it's temporary. It's temporary.
That might be a problem. You're
No,
right.
it's-
That might be a problem. I don't know. I have to
I
look into
think
that. It's a good
if
question.
it's
It might be a problem,
temporary
actually.
structure, you can do it.
It's a
It's not
repair.
permanent.
not making
It's not permanent. It's not permanent structure. It's temporary.
From,
From a non-kosher sukkah to kosher, right?
But
Right.
you need a
To
kosher.
change the status.
But you need a kosher sukkah.
Right, Chalam Bayit is not a problem. The question is Yom Tov or Shabbos. That might be a good question. I don't have to look into it. Very good, yeah, good question.
So you can, because the same as the bima, we fix it because it's not the permanent.
But this is different. You change the status of the sukkah. You take from a non-kosher sukkah to a kosher sukkah. You change the whole status.
Why is it not kosher?
If the
Because
schach blew away.
Because wind blew away, you can put it back.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
You just tied it better.
What if
You
you
cannot tie it on, if a Shabbos is difficult to.
But what if it carries it more than 4 amos away?
I don't know. It's a question I have to look into.
It's your.
The Gemara answers.
It's good enough.
Okay, let's continue on. The Gemara answers of Chia Bar Ashi Amar. Rav Chia Bar Ashi says, "Poiches ba arba." We said this before. He breaches a 4 tefach opening space in the sukkah, thereby is qualified in the sukkah. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar Madlik ba esaner. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says he kindles a lamp in it. What does that mean? He kindles a lamp in it. So if you have a sukkah, exactly the minimum amount possible for a kosher sukkah, a 7 by 7 tefachim. So it's like 7 handbreadths long and wide. So you can't bring anything into the sukkah that takes away from that 7 tefachim, and that this makes it disqualified. So if you have exactly that minimum space, then you can't bring a candle in. Bring a candle, you're taking part of that space away. Then, okay. The Gemara comes. Those are the 2 ways you can what you should do to show you're not eating the sukkah for the mitzvah on Shmini Atzeres. The Gemara comments.
You can eat in such a small sukkah.
You can. It's tiny. It's a 7 by 7 is 7 handbreadths by 7 handbreadths, which is probably
I
like
think you can fit in them.
you can barely fit.
2 by 2.
Let alone your vessels.
Yeah. The Gemara comments Veloy Pligi. The Gemara says these 2 opinions not even arguing. They're not arguing. There's no disagreement between the two suggestions. Halon, the statement of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was said for us living in Babylonia. V'halahu, whereas the statement of Rabbi Chia Bar Ashi was said for those living in Eretz Yisrael. So what difference between Eretz Yisrael and Babylonia? As we all know, in Babylonia, one second. In Babylonia, the 8th day we still eat in the sukkah, right? On Shmini Atzeres, we still eat in the sukkah.
Yeah.
In Israel, it's not sukkahs anymore. It's a whole different. Not that's the reason. That's a difference. So let's look. If you want to read, you can read this. Let's look into the 20. The note 20 will explain this a little bit more in depth. Those that live outside Eretz Yisrael continue to dwell in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres, since for them the day is possibly still the 7th day of Sukkot, right? Accordingly, they cannot breach the sukkah on Erev Yom Tov. For this would defeat the purpose of eating in there the next day. So if you make the sukkah invalidated, then there's no point of eating there on Shmini Atzeres. So you can't breach it. You can't take away 4 tefachim. So when Rabbi Chia Bar Ashi said you take away 4 tefachim of schach, you take away the schach on top, make it invalid, it's talking about only for Eretz Yisrael, where for them is not sukkahs for sure. The issue for them, therefore, is only in the case in which they have no place which to bring down their utensils on the 9th day of holiday of Simchas Torah. This is about here in the diaspora, and they must continue eating in the sukkah for then. What should they do to avoid the appearance of wrongdoing doing Baal Taisif? What do you do to avoid? In order to eat, and now it's Simchas Torah, right? Here in the diaspora. So what do? They cannot very well breach this sukkah, for it is forbidden Yom Tov. For it's forbidden Yom Tov. You can't take down the sukkah on Yom Tov. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi therefore suggests that you light a lamp in the sukkah. The suggestion of Rabbi Chia Bar Ashi that the sukkah is to be breached, on the other hand, applies to resident Eretz Yisrael. They will not be sitting in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres, and therefore can breach the sukkah on Erev Yom Tov. So when it says to breach a sukkah, make it not kosher, that's talking about the people in Eretz Yisrael. When it says bring in a candle, that doesn't disqualify the sukkah completely. That's talking about on Simchas Torah, you want to eat in your sukkah on Simchas Torah.
Why not just put a sign on the outside? I'm not extending the mitzvah.
Right. Because you know what, right? So outside Eretz Yisrael, it's Shmini Atzeres. You can't write on Yom Tov, exactly.
Hieroglyphics.
You can't do that either. Like Gemara.
That's right. You're hanging it.
So in Shmini Atzeret, on Simchas Torah, here in the diaspora, you bring your candles. You can't break your sukkah. You're not allowed to disassemble your sukkah. In Israel, it was Erev Yom Tov. It wasn't Yom Tov allowed to disassemble, so you just make it non-kosher. Finished. Gemara questions Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi's suggestions. Hatinach sukkah kitana. This solution, kindling a lamp, works well in a small sukkah. Sukkah Michael Maimar. But for a large sukkah where there's no prohibition against kindling a lamp, what we say? How does one demonstrate that he's no longer celebrating sukkah? So how do you demonstrate in a big sukkah? Most of us don't have a sukkah, a 7x7. So what are you going to do? The Gemara answers the meilba mali mechla. One demonstrates a sukkah is passed by bringing soiled eating utensils into the sukkah. You bring like dirty dishes, bring dirty dishes to the sukkah. Why? Amar Rava says, Mane mechla bar mimotalta. Eating utensils should be taken outside the sukkah after use. After you finish eating your utensils, you can't leave in the sukkah. It's not nice for the sukkah. It's disrespectful. Some opinions say even it can invalidate the sukkah. Some opinions it doesn't. Some people say it does. But either way, you're not allowed to leave dirty dishes in the sukkah. Drinking utensils, whatever, may remain in the sukkah. So you're allowed to leave your cups, drink of water or whatever. You leave your cups in the sukkah, that's fine. But any dirty dishes, you should not leave your dirty dishes in the sukkah because it's not respectful to the sukkah. So how do you show that it's not you're not eating in the sukkah for the holiday for sukkahs? By leaving dirty dishes around. So you're showing you're not. If it would be Yom Tov, if you're eating for the holiday, you wouldn't have these dirty dishes in your sukkah. You're not allowed to have dirty dishes in your sukkah. So here you're showing that you're not disrespecting the mitzvah because there is no mitzvah after sukkahs. Make sense? Okay. Next Mishnah. The Mishnah describes the water libations was performed with the morning tamid during the 7 days of the festival as mentioned above in the first Mishnah in the chapter. So now we're talking about the water libations. We know during the whole year when they brought the tamid, they brought the tamid was the first sacrifice they brought in the day with one tamid shel shachar, which is the morning sacrifice. Tamid shel bar is the afternoon sacrifice. Every day they had one in the morning and one in the evening. And in addition to the animals they also brought the wine libation. They poured wine. We'll talk about where that was exactly on the Mizbeach. And on Sukkot, they also poured the water libation. That was a very joyous time when they had the water libations. Okay. Nisuch hamayim ketzat. How is the water libations done? How do you do the water libations? A member of the group from the temple would fill a golden flask with a capacity of 3 lugin. 3 lugin, if you look at the footnotes, it tells us 3 lugin is about different opinions between 35 fluid ounces to about 79 fluid ounces, depending which opinion you hold. So they filled up this golden flask with water from the Higil Sharamayim. When they returned from the Shiluach. Shiluach is a spring, a spring of water. Where they filled up the water from to the temple to reach the water. When they reached the water gate, so the gate called the water gate. The reason why it was called the water gate because that's where they brought the water through to the temple. Taku v'heriv taku. They sounded the tekiah and the trua and the kiyah. So they blew with the trumpets, not with a shofar. This is with a trumpet, and this is out of joy. We're learning later on. The pasuk verse tells us, "Usha'afte mayim b'sasem mivani yeshua." You bring when they usha'afte mayim b'sasem, you draw water from the wellspring. You do it with sasin with joy. So how do you do joy? Joy is the Torah tells us other places that do that. The way we we bring joy is by blowing the trumpets. And they blew the tekiah, teruah tekiah. That was like the trumpet joyful blowings. Okay, so when they reach the water gate, Taku Beriv Taku, they sound the tekiah and teruah tekiah. Allah Bakeves Ufalas Malay. He, the Kohen, chosen to carry the flask of water, went up the ramp of the altar. He went up, there's a ramp in the altar. If you look at a few pages down, we have a picture actually of what the altar looked like. There was a ramp. I think it's on page, let's see, what page is it on? On page 48b3. Actually, here you can see how we actually did it. So he walked on diagram A, it shows us how he, actually, no, that was irregular, but the diagram B is really what he did, how they brought the water. They went up this ramp. This was the ramp of the Mizbeach, the altar. Allah he went, the Kohen carried the flask of water, went up the ramp of the altar, and turned to his left. That's what you see on the left here, on the side here, on number B, diagram B. There were two silver balls there on the southwestern corner of the altar. So on that western corner, look at the picture, on the southwestern corner, when you first come onto the altar, that's where those two. One second, where is it? There were two silver balls. Rabbi Yehuda Meshel Sid Hayu. Rabbi Yehuda says these balls were not silver, but they were made out of plaster. Actually, made out of plaster. What's the reason why? What's the machlekes why they made a silver or plaster? So, if you're maybe familiar with this, you're not allowed to have any metal on the mizbeach. You know how they cut the stones from the mizbeach? They couldn't use had a shamir worm. Remember the shamir worm? Anyone heard of this? So weren't allowed to use metal to cut the stones. So how do they cut the stones? There's a special worm that only exists in those days, and the worm will actually cut the stones. Believe it or not, that's how they cut the work. It goes. It's only if you weren't allowed to use any metal on the mizbeach. So what is the Tanakama? The first Tana holds that it was made of silver, so it wasn't metal. It was a type of metal, but it wasn't iron. I guess it wasn't like the iron. Therefore, right. So it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. I guess you don't use silver for fighting, for knives or swords or whatever. So he held it was okay to have metal. Rabbi Yehuda holds that no, you can have any type of metal, even silver, you weren't allowed to have on mizbeach. So therefore, he said it was not made out of silver; it was made out of plaster. It was not have any type of metal, even silver or anything like that. But the surface were darkened from the wine, giving them a silver-like appearance. It looked like silver. It wasn't really silver. It was really made out of a plaster. Well, sorry. Okay. So that's what the Tana says. The Mishnah continues to describe these balls. Uminukavim. Now these balls had spouts that were perforated, had spouts that were like perforated spouts that came out of these balls. Resembling two nostrils. It looked like two nostrils, basically. Echa me'ubav, echa dak. One of the holes were thicker and one was thinner. And the Gemara can explain why you had thinner and thicker ones. What's the reason for that? The Gemara is going to explain that all. So they're both to drain at the same time. So basically, we had the wine. I'll tell it to you now because it may make more sense. So in order for the wine and the water to drain at the same time, one was a little thicker, one was a little thinner because water is more fluid. It's a more fluid liquid. Wine's a little thicker, so it takes a little longer to drain. Those are the ones that drop thicker than the other one. A little big, wider opening. One sec. What happened here? Okay. The ball of the west side was for water, and the ball on the east side was for wine. Why did they have the one on the west side for water and the east side for wine? Because the commentaries explain at the bottom that the east side was closer to where the Kohen went up, and because the wine every single day of the year they poured wine into those balls. The one in the water was only for 7 days of the year, or 8 days of the year, depending on what opinion. So therefore, it wasn't closer to the Kohen where he went up; was a little further out. What happened if he poured a flask of water into the bowl designated for wine? So he mixed it up by mistake. Is it okay? And for the flask of wine into the bowl designated for water, Yatzei fulfill his obligation. It's okay if you mix them up. You pour the water into the wine bowl, the wine into the water. You shouldn't do it, obviously, but if you did, it's okay. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Belug haya minase kol shmeina." Rabbi Yehuda says the kohen would pour the water using one lug. So here he's arguing with the Tanna Kama, the first opinion, in 2 points. He's arguing 2 points. 1 point is arguing that the Tanna Kama said it was three lugs of water. He says no, there was only one lug. Lug is a measurement. So he's saying it's only one lug versus 3 lugs. He also says Tanna Kama said they pour the water for 7 days, just sukkahs. Rabbi Yehuda says they poured it for 8 days, including Shmini Atzeres. So he argued on 2 points with the first opinion. And to the pour of the water libations, he would say, raise your hands while you pour. The people there would say, raise up your hands. We want to see you. Make sure you're pouring it into the bowls. Why? For once, a kohen poured the water onto his feet because he was a Saduki. A Saduki are the people who do not believe in the oral Torah. So the oral Torah, where do we learn this? The halacha that you pour water onto the mizbeach on Sukkot. It's from the oral Torah. It's a Torah. It's Moshe Sinai. So it's a Moshe passed down generation to generation. There's 2 different opinions how we learn it, but either way, both opinions are. It's definitely does not say in the Torah specifically clearly. We learn it from the Torah. One is both biblical. Allah, they're both biblical. Everyone holds a biblical mitzvah, but it doesn't say clearly in the Torah. So the Sadukim, the type of people, did not believe. They believed in the Torah, only the written Torah. Anything that's not part of the written Torah, they didn't follow. So these guys did not believe in the mitzvah of pouring the water into the bowls. So what did his Kohen Saduki? What did he do? He poured it onto his feet. He poured the water onto his feet. And the people pelted him with esrogim. The esrogs, and they threw it at him.
Did they use their own or their kids?
Good question. Right, exactly. Yes. So they pelted him with his esrog. I think he died. I don't know what happened to him, but he died. He didn't die either way, but he got pelted by his later. And we'll learn later on that some people even threw stones at him. Some people even throw stones at him.
I don't understand why they wanna quarrel. Why didn't write it down right away so we know exactly what Moshe said? Because people have a tendency to forget things.
Good question. So the George asking a question. Why do we have 2 Torahs? Why we have not 2 Torahs, 1 Torah? Why we have the oral Torah and the written Torah?
Why didn't write it down?
You weren't allowed to. Wasn't what happened? So let me ask you a question. I'll tell you why. So we have the Christians, right? They what do? They took the Torah and they say it's their Torah, right?
They don't have.
When they take it, the oral Torah
Time of Moshe did not exist. Christians.
Correct, but later on,
they exist actually.
Right, exactly. But I'm saying later on, what do they took the oral Torah, they made it they own thing. They say it's their Torah. So here they can't take the oral Torah and make it theirs. So part of the God didn't want them to have the part of the oral Torah. So oral Torah, look at it, you read the actual Chumash itself, look at the Torah, you can't understand.
Down anyway.
What? Eventually it had to be written down because people were forgetting it. So it had to be,
That's the problem with forgetting lots of things right away after the Moshe.
That's why it was written down by Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He realized people were forgetting the oral Torah, so he documented it. But for many, many years, it was just taught in the yeshiva. It wasn't allowed to be taught. It wasn't allowed to be documented, so that way no one else can.
Maybe they have better memory than we are.
They obviously did. They obviously did.
They didn't have TV.
Right.
No distraction.
But remember that they had to remember this was from Moshe, from times of Moshe to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. How many years was that? But the Mishnah tells us the whole chain of
14.
it's a long time. So the Pirkei Avos starts off. Moshe Kilatar B'Sinai, Masar LeYeshua, Zakuz Zakanim, Zakanim Levim, Levim Masar. It tells a whole who passed down from generation. The Ram gives even a more descriptive explains every single rabbi from Moshe until it was documented. All the teachers that told the Torah from one generation to the next. Okay.
That's why too many arguments.
The Mishnah teaches how the water libations were performed in the Shabbos. How do they do the libation on Shabbos? We actually have a time. Should we just finish? Have time to finish this? Okay, we know what's.
Yeah, we start tomorrow.
Yeah. Should we just finish this or should we stop here?
Yeah, just finish it till the Gemara.
To the Gemara. Okay, we'll just do the Gemara. Yeah. I'll do the Gemara. Almost there. The Mishnah, let's just finish the last part here. The Mishnah teaches how the war libation is performed on Shabbos. Just as the war libation is performed on the weekday, so it's performed on Shabbos. Did the same procedure. Ella, the only difference was Shahaya Mimale Erev Shabbos Chalosh of Zav She'ena Mukadeshes Mina Shiluach. Except that he would not draw the water from the Shiluach spring on the Shabbos itself. Rather, he would fill an unconsecrated golden vessel with the water from the Shiluach the eve of Shabbos for Friday. So he would take an unconsecrated vessel, and the reason why it couldn't be the consecrated vessel was any vessel that was used in the holy temple. It became holy, and anything that's in there became holy. And you can't anything that's holy in a holy vessel cannot stay overnight in the vessel, or becomes called lina, comes invalid. You can't use it for the holy sacrifices if they overnight in a holy vessel. Therefore, they used something that was not used in the holy temple before. They leave it in the chamber to be used the next day. The nishbecha, let's say it was nishbecha nizgalka, if the water spilled because it was or became uncovered, so you can't use uncovered water or wine. There are a couple of reasons for that. One of the reasons is because maybe a snake drank from the water or the wine. And then when you measure out the 3 lugim, the amount you need to pour the thing, it has some of the poison from the snake. So it's not all pure wine or water. That's one. And then you using that you don't have the correct amount of wine or water. Another reason is because the Torah tells you have to be used the best for God. And water contaminated with poison from a snake, it becomes not using the best. So you can't use it. So it became uncovered, and maybe a snake drank from that wine or water, or it spilled. What do? They didn't have how to get the wine, because you can't go to the spring to take the water, because the spring you can't carry from outside Jerusalem into Jerusalem, because you can't carry on Shabbos. If you filled it from the consecrated golden flask, the kiyar where the kohanim would wash their hands and feet before doing the service, which was situated in the temple. The reason why it was okay to be left overnight, because they actually lowered it into the ground, into the well. So they say overnight in the actual well. Shamayim shayayin v'hamayim gulam psulim legam mizbeach, for uncovered wine and water unfit to use on the altar. And we'll stop over here. If everyone's up to saying for Mara, if we can do a minyan for Mara, we have 10, right? 4, not 6, not 8, not 10. Yeah, we have a minyan. Everyone's okay staying. Okay.